Vikings fans, if you want more free videos pretty much every single day on what's going on around the Minnesota Vikings, the good and the bad we're about to get into, then hit that big red button and subscribe. It's all free here at Chat Sports. You're watching Minnesota Vikings Now. I am Tom Downey, and I am the bearer of potentially very, very bad news for Minnesota. It appears that Danielle Hunter is going to miss the rest of the season. Not confirmed at this point, but Hunter, who left the game last night against the Cowboys, well, the fear for Minnesota, a torn pectoral, which would end Hunter's season, who had been playing so well. Here was the breaking news earlier this morning from Ian Rappaport. Vikings pass rusher Danielle Hunter is feared to have suffered a torn pectoral, sources tell him and Mike Garafolo. Having an MRI this morning to confirm the diagnosis, if confirmed, would knock the Pro Bowler out for the season. Now again, this is not confirmed at this point, but the likelihood is that this ends up being the case. You're typically able to tell quite quickly whether or not it is indeed torn or not. So I am of the expectation that Hunter is not going to be able to play again this year for Minnesota, which is a brutal and massive blow to the Vikings. Hunter had been playing after some contract issues earlier this year. Hunter had been playing like one of the best pass rushers in the entire NFL. He had genuinely been that good. In 7 games, and really 6.5 with the injury, 6 tackles for loss, 6 sacks, 10 quarterbacks hits. Hunter was not getting really any defensive player of the year buzz. Myles Garrett had gotten that. Chandler Jones got after his incredible week 1 performance. But Hunter, he was having an all-pro caliber season before this injury. So if it is indeed a torn pectoral, which at this point I am operating like it's going to be, that's a pretty brutal blow for Minnesota. Brutal, frankly, is a great one-word reaction to this Hunter injury news. Now, I'm going to give some more thoughts on this. That's not going to be one word, but I'm letting you guys get your votes in for me and your responses, I should say. What's your one-word reaction to the Hunter injury news? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So you get that ad break here on YouTube. Head down to that pinned comment and type your responses. My not one-word reaction is this. This is a worst-case outcome. I set the rules. I get to, make it up as I go, so I don't have to be limited to just one word here. Deal with it. This is a disaster for Minnesota. This is about as bad of an outcome beyond the loss itself last night, which you lose to Cooper Rush. Are you guys kidding me? To lose Hunter as well wasn't even a Pyrrhic victory. You lost the game and you lost your best player, not on defense, overall. So if Hunter is out for the year, which is very much where I am at this stage, your internal options right now are Everson Griffin, who, by the way, did play very well in that game for the Dallas Cowboys. I thought that Griffin had himself a very strong showing. Again, he looks like your best edge rusher right now. But the other options here is, you're going to maybe give Patrick Jones some more run. I don't love that. DJ Wanham took over really for Hunter, and he'd been a rotation piece, but he had 38 pass rush reps against the Cowboys, had a grand total of 1 hurry. Kenny Willekes had 16. Now maybe he gets some more run as well. Maybe Patrick Jones finally gets out there. But for Minnesota, oh man, that again, I cannot understate how noteworthy this loss is. You're already down your number 1 quarter in Patrick Peterson. Now you're down Danielle Hunter. And guess what? The schedule? Oh, it's not easy in the next couple of games. At the Baltimore Ravens, at the LA Chargers, 2 very tough road games against likely playoff teams in the AFC. Green Bay has a chance to really more or less secure the NFC North in Week 11. The Niners are maybe good, maybe bad. I'm not really sure. That's a game the Vikings can win, but they genuinely could be facing a 4-game losing streak entering that game. And then you should beat the Lions, because they're terrible. But this 5-game schedule, if you're Minnesota, if you can win 2 of them, maybe that's your goal, and that's a bit of a red flag as they move forward. So how many wins over the next 5 games here for the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to pencil them in for 2. I'd love to give them 3, but they're going to be underdogs in at least 3 of those games. Get your predictions in for me in the comments section. And, oh, by the way, you can bet on or against Minnesota with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code you guys see on screen. That is chat125. It'll get you a 125% deposit bonus when you put down at least $100. That's chatsports.com/bet. Promo code is Cowboys125. All right, with the injury news out of the way, let's look at some of the potential replacements here for Hunter. I'm looking at trade with the deadline just around the corner, and if you want to, free agency. If, Rick Spielman, Mike Zimmer don't want to move draft capital to go out and acquire a player. Those are, I think, the 2 routes that really do make the most sense for Minnesota. Maybe internal, but you're losing Hunter. It's a big loss there. So how should the Vikings replace Hunter? Get your preferred method of operation in the comment section for me right now by typing in T for trade or F for free agency. We'll begin with some trade targets. The big name on this list, really, in terms of like the cost I think that it would require both draft pick-wise and money-wise, is Emmanuel Ogbah. The current Dolphin, former Chief, former Brown, has fared well over the past year and a half. Now, his numbers are a bit down lately. The Dolphins' pass rush hasn't really been getting home as much. I think the supporting cast not nearly as good for Miami as what they were hoping. But if Minnesota wants a bigger name player to really come in and start for them, Ogbah, I do think, makes some sense. But maybe the number 1 target on this list, in fact, he is the number 1 target, how about Melvin Ingram of the Steelers? Not in a true 4-3 defensive end, but he can still play as a pass rusher. That's fine. His numbers have not been great. But if you want another edge who's not that expensive from a draft capital standpoint and not that expensive from a money standpoint, Ingram makes a lot of sense for Minnesota. I think there is interest in him. I think a team like Pittsburgh could be willing to sell him because he's not happy with his playing time. Pittsburgh's still in the mix, so they're not going to give him away for free, but that's a good name. That's the one I would keep my eye on the most if I were Minnesota. All right, cheap from a draft capital standpoint, L.J. Collier, because he's a bust. The former first-round pick in Seattle has not ever lived up to expectations. Terrible his first year, promising in year 2, can't get on the field in year 3. A change of scenery is very much needed. Maybe L.J. Collier could find that change of scenery in Minnesota. He played better when he was wearing purple for TCU, so maybe there's a connection there. That's a stretch, I know. All right, Derek Barnett for Philadelphia here. Money's an issue. That salary is a bit higher than what you would like it to be, although Philadelphia's played around with it, so maybe. I don't think, though, that this is a great name for Minnesota to go pursue. I think the Eagles are probably going to be asking for a little bit too much right now. But if Minnesota wants to be aggressive and try and make the playoffs this year, which I wonder if at least the head coach and Mike Zimmer needs from that perspective, maybe that's a good name. Now, the names we went through there were mostly short-term options. A potential long-term name is K'Lavon Chaisson, the edge rusher for Jacksonville, who has not played very well so far, but he's mostly been playing in a new scheme. I don't know if it fits him quite right. He's fallen behind DeJuan Smoot for reasons. New regime in Jacksonville. He was always a developmental guy. So maybe this could be the right time for Chaisson to be dealt. And if I'm Minnesota, that's the name I actually am intrigued by. It's Ingram, then Chaisson. Go get a young piece, since the long-term future of Hunter is at least somewhat a bit murky with the way it's going to set up with the injury. Maybe it locks him into Minnesota moving forward. All right, free agent time now. Olivier Vernon is the top edge rusher on the market by a wide margin. Now, the issue here, why he's unsigned, is he's coming off of a torn Achilles late last year. 2020, though, for the Browns, awesome production. 13 tackles for loss, 9 sacks. That level of production is not ever really available and in November on the free agent market unless there's something wrong. The medical, I think is a big issue for Vernon. If it checks out, sign him right now. Otherwise, I think you're kind of stuck not being able to add him to your team. Two more names. I don't love these ones nearly as much, but it's used to indicate how the trade market or internal probably your best route. Trent Murphy, the former Buffalo Bill edge rusher, has been replacement level. That's really the way I would describe him. 2 sacks, 4 TFL last year. If it comes down to Murphy or making a trade, give me the trade. If it comes down to Murphy and seeing what Patrick Jones can do, I kind of want to see what Jones can do. Finally, there is Adrian Claiborne. Now, unless he's playing against Chaz Green, he typically doesn't put up that great of sack numbers, but he's a decent run stopper. That could be a nice little help there for Minnesota. He would probably be more of an early down situational pass rusher, but that's the type of name that I actually do think makes a little bit of sense for Minnesota. I'd rank them Vernon all the way up here off the screen. Keep it on screen right there. Claiborne, and then Murphy somewhere down there. Now, if the Vikings do make a move, we'll try and make a video for you guys. If you want them all for free here on Minnesota Vikings Now, it's quite simple. Hit that big red button right now.